In this video, we're going to talk about prompting, and this is why you can get 10x more from your AI tools. My name is Dr. Tio Bitsi, and I'll guide you on mastering AI enhancement with prompting in project management. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we're going to ask and answer the question, why does prompting matter? After that, we're going to look at the role context output framework when it comes to prompting. And then we're going to look at 5 prompt templates that every PM should save and have on their prompt library or in their prompt library. Next, we're going to look at a live comparison between a bad prompt versus a structured prompt. And then finally, we're going to look at common mistakes that you should avoid. And those are very important. So stay until the end of the video to hear about these 5 common mistakes you should avoid. Now, prompting has become crucial in AI interactions, and whether you use a specific AI tool, whether it's the common ones like Claude or ChatGPT, the same question still remains. And how you prompt the tool will determine the output or the quality that it would produce, depending on how you ask the question. Now, most professionals tend to use AI tools like as though they're search engines. They would put one sentence in, they would put a vague intent, and they would expect it to generate a reasonable output. And that is not realistic. Now, structured prompting is important and is also learnable, and it's a skill that we must adopt as professionals in the modern world. This is like learning to run a good meeting. Now, the gap between what we would consider a weak prompt and a strong prompt can be as much as 10 times when it comes to the output usefulness. And this is why prompting is an important part of the AI literacy skill that every project professional must learn and understand in the current century that we're in. One of the most common and basic frameworks within AI prompting is what we call the role context output framework. And this framework is very important and useful for project managers because it sort of defines the role by instructing the artificial intelligence on its persona. So it could be something like a senior project manager, it could be something like a senior portfolio manager, that sort of thing. So you could to tell AI to who to be. In essence, you could say act as a senior project manager with 15 years experience in digital transformation, for example. This is the role part of the conversation. Now, on context, it gives the full picture. So it goes into what the AI needs to do. So it provides that context with comprehensive project details. Project brief, is it about constraints? Is it about a stakeholder situation? Or is it about what has already happened? And then the output part of it is where we detail the format in terms of the tone and the audience. We could also include the constraints and a quality check to ensure clarity and precision. So outputs would say specifically to the AI to highlight what you want. So, for example, you could say that you want it in a PDF, you want it in a certain formal tone, that sort of thing. Of course, any other constraints or quality checks you could also add. This is the role context output framework, and this is how you can use it to your advantage when you're prompting using AI. So now we're going to look at some example prompts using the role context output. And we're going to look at different modules within project management. And we're going to start with risk. So for a risk register, if you're going to prompt a risk register, you can use the one on the screen. For example, you could have the role and say, as a senior risk manager, you then provide a context, which you might be pasting your project brief in there, or you could pretty much just attach a document in there now. And then you would say the output is provide me with the top 10 risks, each with the probability high, medium, low, the impact high, medium, low, risk owner category, and one specific mitigation format as a table. You can see the output there and how that would work. You can also use it for a stakeholder brief. In this case, your role could be like a senior project manager. Again, context would be you could provide the stakeholder name, their role, their interests, and then the output could be a one-page stakeholder engagement brief, which you then would provide with the key message, frequency, and escalation triggers. This gives you an opportunity to then take the output of what the AI gives back to you over to have your meeting with the stakeholder. The third is a lessons learned template. You can have the role as a PMO analyst, and then the context would be depending on what you're doing, the project summary, it could be the key events within your sprint. The output could be structured lessons learned, what worked well, what didn't. You could use any of the lessons learned frameworks that currently also exist. So these are three. We're going to look at the other two areas you could apply the role context output framework within project management modules. Next, we look at change request. So for a change request, you could also use the role context output framework where you have your role, again, senior project manager. The context will be the change description. It could be the scope, impact, cost, time, and risks. Then, of course, you have your output, and you could tell it to output the results in a suitable format that would include a recommendation section with your rationale as well. For an executive summary, as a program director, provide a 200-word status update for a board pack focusing on headline status, key issues, and necessary actions. And so these are the 5 sort of templates that you could apply using the role, context, and output framework. Now, in other videos, I will share other types of frameworks, so keep an eye on this channel for those videos. Subscribe so that once I paste them or put them up on, you can see them. But save these prompts and keep them on your platform because they will be useful in how you approach prompting in projects in the future. Now, when it comes to bad prompts versus structured prompts, if you put up a prompt that is weak, it would sound something like write a status report for my project. Now, that would not yield you good results because the outputs will be generic, they'll be vague, and would require a complete rewrite. There's no project context given. Of course, no format has been specified. So whatever it believes or feels like it would output to you. And there's no audience defined as well. So 80% of the output in itself will be useless. But if you use any of the structured prompts, specifically the one we've discussed in this video, which is role context output, you're definitely more likely to get better results. Certainly, majority of it will be useful. Now we're going to look at 5 common prompting mistakes you should avoid. So keep an ear out for these 5 prompting mistakes. So these are the 5 common prompting mistakes you must avoid. Number 1 is don't be too vague. That is very important. If there's no role, no context, AI has nothing to work with. Number 2 is don't provide too much jargon. Using excessive jargon would mean that AI would interpret your acronyms differently than your organization does. Number 3 is no format instruction. Of course, if there is no format instruction, then AI would output what it believes should be the right format based on what you've asked it, and that might be irrelevant to what you need. It would default to paragraphs when you wanted a table, for example. Number 4 is no constraint on assumptions. Of course, AI is intelligent, but it will invent plausible sounding but wrong context. And certainly that is not what you are after. And lastly, accepting the first output. Now, you're going to need to iterate when it comes to AI. And so always ask AI to critique and improve its own response. These are very important when it comes to your prompting and the common mistakes you should avoid. So finally, we have more resources. If you're looking for more resources in terms of delivery, we have AI4PMS.com, where you can find more information on prompting when it comes to project managers. We have several courses in AI in project management, which you can also find at pmgts.uk. We have a certification called AI PM, that is a prompt that also covers prompt engineering as a core module. So we have everything that you potentially would need. Reach out to us at pmgts.uk. Subscribe to this content and this video. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.